Well, good morning, everybody. It is 10 o'clock, and true to form, I like starting on time. We all have busy schedules, and I'm sure you've programmed this in your diary to start at 10 and end at 3. No, sorry, end at 3. No, you've scheduled the time this morning to start at 10 and I think end at 11 at the latest. So we're going to give a minute or two just to allow the last couple of people to log in, and I'll get going at 1 minute past 10. Well, good morning from a cold and crisp Gauteng this morning. There's definitely no doubt that winter is on its way. A couple of nights ago, the dog wanted out, and it was 4 degrees, and I'm not quite sure who had the greatest shock at the door, but definitely winter on its way. One of the nicest things about South Africa is that we actually have very, very differing seasons. We have very short springs and autumns. I think they start in the morning and are done by the afternoon of that day. So we go from 34 degrees the one day down to 4 or 5 degrees the next day. But hopefully you're all keeping well, you're keeping warm. The weather service says we're in for a couple of really cold days. I think Lesotho has ordered some snow. That's the only thing they're going to get from the States at the moment, it seems. So be aware that the temperatures are going to drop. This morning, we have the fourth of our Tools for Transporters series of webinars that we're running. And this one this morning is a very interesting one. It's not something we've run before, and it definitely gives you food for thought. It's not just the grease, nuts and bolts and differentials of trucks. It's about parts of your business, the greater part of your business, and what you can do for your business and what you can do for the country as well. So today we're talking about business perks of helping out. The Road Freight Association over the last 18 months to 2 years, I think, has had a relationship with SA Harvest. I must admit, when they came to see us the first time, I thought they had come to talk about Deepwater Hake, because that's what went through my mind. And I know that's a different brand entirely. And then they explained a couple of things to us. And just two things before I hand over to the two learned gentlemen with us this morning. The first thing is they said that roughly 18 million South Africans go hungry every day. Now, that's a huge statistic. I mean, you and I are probably sitting warm, comfortably somewhere with at least a coffee machine or somebody making a cup of coffee or tea for us, or have the ability to do that. But 18 million South Africans don't even have that, what we see as an everyday, ordinary thing, that sort of luxury, or even are able to have a single meal a day. So we're very, very blessed, many of us. And then the second thing is that roughly 10 million tons of good food goes to waste every year, is thrown away. And I must admit, a couple of years ago, I did a travel sector through the US, went to go have a look at transportation and what have you there. And I was absolutely gobsmacked at the amount of food wastage that happened in the States. And as I say, I'm talking about 8 years ago. I couldn't believe at these fast food restaurants or diners, you would see the amount of food thrown away. And it's actually really, really shocking. So that's the sort of the background. This morning we have two learned gentlemen. One is Ozzy Osbourne. You should all know. Oh no, sorry, not Ozzy. I thought he was going to sing to us. One is Ozzy, the other is Jacques, and they have been around for some time, both in retail and industry and in operations, but very, very important fellows in SA Harvest, and making sure that they can get to at least some of those 18 million people who require a meal a day, and that at least some part of that 10 million tons of good food that's thrown away is not thrown away. And you'll see quite often the RFA asks you through emails and WhatsApp groups if you don't have a spare truck or a spare container or an empty load going somewhere to take some nachos or oranges or whatever the food might be to the points from which they distribute. So it's SA Harvest is a critical part of ensuring that people get food today. I think I've said enough. Aussie, Jacques, over to you.
Gavin, I must first say thank you for all those compliments. Yes, and absolute privilege just to be chatting a little bit about SA Harvest, our story with Road Freight, and how we believe we can build this amazing collaborative effort to address some of the issues in South Africa, but also to give a lot of purpose to the industry. And we brought Jacques with us. I think a lot of people on this call must probably recognize Jacques, and I would love for Jacques to just have a little bit of an introduction to who he is and why he's decided to lend a shoulder and a hand to SA Harvest.
Thank you so much, Aussie. And Gavin, thank you so much for the opportunity today. So yes, previously in the corporate arena, worked for a business by the name of Unitrans, which I'm still very fond of. I think my blood will forever be blue. Decided to exit the corporate arena a little bit more than a year ago already. Time flies. And during my travels in the States, started doing this 40 coffee concept where I reached out to individuals in the market across various industries that I thought was doing good, really just wanting to be part of something bigger than myself. Had the wonderful opportunity to sit down with a gentleman by the name of Aussie Nell. And very shortly after our discussions, I knew that this is something that I needed to be part of. So founder of a company called Innovative Operational Excellence Solutions. And really, I'm here today to just share the story and my involvement with SA Harvest over the past few months and how collectively we're trying to create that collaboration in order to be able to achieve the outcomes. Thanks, Aussie.
Thanks, Jock. Now, maybe if I can just take everyone a step back and just give a little bit of a short introduction to SA Harvest and what we do. So we are the sister company of Oz Harvest in Australia, founded by a gentleman by the name of Alan Brody, who grew up with Ronnie Khan, who runs Oz Harvest, which is now also in New Zealand, they're in the UK, then Japan, Hong Kong, and Vietnam. And ideally, we're a food rescue organization. So we play in the food value chain. You can look at us as a smaller logistics business that we collect surplus stock that does not make it onto the retail shelves, and we redistribute this to community-based organizations all over South Africa at scale. These type of organizations, they vary from ECDs, your early childhood development centers. We do a lot of shelters. We've got larger organizations that we support that have their own small logistics capabilities, but they also have warehousing. And through this, we are able to move thousands of kilograms of nutritious, edible food out of the value chain into these community-based organizations, which then turn it into meals for a lot of marginalized communities. And that's really at our core.
I think what's been quite interesting, Aussie, just to add to that is, regardless of, well, over and above the amazing functionality that you have and the big, hairy, audacious goal that you have to feed these individuals that really are in dire need, is that you have this variable supply structure with a constant demand, but very limited, if any, internal logistics capability from an infrastructure perspective. And I think what's been phenomenal in my involvement, and at least from a external view, it's just the willingness of the industry to really contribute. You're really moving all of this food from, you know, the wholesalers, the suppliers, the retailers, the creators of the food to these communities by 100% leaning on the transport community, and that allows you to have the reach that you've had.
Absolutely. And I mean, if we look at the value chain, and if we look at food waste or food loss specifically, it's quite complex. But about 45% of this, of 10 million tons, is sitting at farm or manufacturer level, and also at pack house level. So that is a considerable amount. That is many, many, many taut liners of stock. And it happens in different parts of the world. So for us, at the inception of SA Harvest, we always felt like for us to box smart and to really get clever about this, we would have to work with the giants, the logistics experts, and that is really how we got to Road Freight Association.
I know you mentioned the story of how you met Gavin, and I think it'll be a cool introduction for everybody to hear a little bit more than that. But I think just before we get to that, one of the major things, and I think that's one of the core messages we want to carry through today, in my first discussion with Aussie, just coming from the corporate environment and being more business minded, I remember one of my first questions being, so how do you make money? And Aussie had had the same smile on his face that he has now and a bit of a giggle and a chuckle. And he said, well, that's not how we measure our impact. And I said, but at the end of the day, it's a business. So what is your ROI? And I think one of the core fundamental statements that you made for me that day that is part of the reason why I'm here is that you measure your ROI on actual impact of output. And that really just resounds with regards to our talk today, saying that there's almost a systemic change currently taking place where transport is a transport game and you measure income based on ROI, and it's a very low margin business, as we all know. So what would be the real link for transporters getting involved? And we'll get a little bit more into detail later. But it's more that mindset, and I see that happening day in, day out about, yes, it is about making money because we are corporates and that's why we survive, but almost that internal systemic change and saying we can make money and survive as transport companies while having a fundamental impact on society by lending a helping hand to businesses like SA Harvest.
Absolutely, Jacques. So for us, it's about really building a scalable collective. Being in the logistics space, it's something that we always knew from inception. We're never going to do just by ourselves. The capex required to move the volume of food that we need to be moved would be absolutely impossible. So that's why it was so important for us to join hands with RFA and get involved with the logistics guys and really understand the logistics space. And that's how we came up with the solution of, looking at the empty legs, mapping them, and being able to move stock that way through different logistics partners.
That's quite, just when you said empty legs, it was quite a funny expression because I think if you're in the transport industry, a swear word is the word dead legs. So when I initially spoke to Ozzy first and you were speaking about these dead legs, and Gavin, I know that you mentioned this as well. I said, please do not use that term. It's empty legs. So yeah, I think if we cut through all of it, to just really lean into that. So the real value proposition being here is that we know that in the transport space, it's measurability of action of assets and making sure that your assets are active as much as possible, obviously cutting down on the operational cost as best you possibly can without cutting on the safety side. And that really pushes that margin, which is minuscule at best. The value proposition that you have with supporting a company like SA Harvest is the Section 18A tax certification that basically boils down to full value of load up to 10% revenue annual of business, which gives you that rands and cents beneficiation of being involved with an entity like this. But I think more so, and something that's really coming to the forefront and has so for the past while, is the impact on an ESG and SDG perspective. ESG and SDG have been these buzzwords over the past 18, 24, 36 months. But we see businesses, the likes of the Vector Logistics, the Unitransfers, the DP Worlds, really starting to lean into what this means, in the sense that get the measurability of your impact of your ESG, understand the SDG platform. And I believe what SA Harvest is doing phenomenally well now is almost providing a platform to say, we would like to partner with these logistics entities. Yes, you are helping us transport food because we don't have our own transport capability. We provide you with the value proposition of the Section 18A, but more so on the basis of the transportation of this food, we could possibly impact SDG 3, 2, 7, and 9, just as an example. And how does that match your ESG portfolio? So you have that added benefit of empowering the logistics service providers to improve on their ESGs. And then lastly, obviously, the CSI spend. We know that it is always a prerogative across various nationals in order to make sure that their CSI budget is spent accordingly. And what a good just prospect to be part of something like this, using that CSI budget and contributing to the provision of food to previously less fortunate communities.
Doc, I think you really touched on something very important there. In the space that we work in, we found that there was very little transparency. So we built a technology platform, which was very important for us to be able to show what comes into our warehouse and exactly where it gets delivered. And we've, over the last 2 years, we've really been building out that technical capabilities. And through digitization, we are now able to show movement of stock right through to a beneficial organization, demographics, who they're feeding, etc. And it helps lots of different people in the value chain be able to show impact, geolocate the impact in close proximity to their own operations. With the
Exactly.
logistics guys, it's really about impact on the existing routes that they have. And it's an interesting space, and it really is evolving.
And it's a ripple effect across all silos of the supply chain. So it's the transportation that's provided, but we also have amazing partners, and I call them collaborative partnerships that we constantly pursuing at the moment. That's making warehousing space available. That's helping with the pre-planning of trips and route optimization. So it's using that intrinsic supply chain knowledge, working with a collaborative partner like SA Harvest. And yes, the infrastructure of the truck is provided, but it's that overarching supply chain knowledge that really helps you to get the food from donor to beneficiator.
Completely agree with you, Jacques. And what we found in the last couple of years is that so many of the logistics guys have got relationships already on the ground. They're working with certain food manufacturers or farmers, so it enables them to have a solution for their existing clients as well. I think that is key and very important.
Yeah, I think without sharing any names and just keeping respectful confidentiality in some of these conversations, is that we have a typical example is a large supply chain group that we currently working quite closely with in order to get more structure in that supply chain functionality. Case in point, we visited them a couple of weeks ago, really trying to explore what this collaboration for these two businesses look like in future. And they had one of their customers transporting 11 pallets of frozen veggies, and there was a diesel pipe in the front part of the cabin, obviously the cooling unit, that spilt probably a half a cup of diesel came out of this pipe in the pallet closest to the front wall of the vehicle. But because of the stringent safety requirements of this business, it required them to write off all 11 pallets of frozen veggies. In a case like this, predominantly large-scale suppliers and food producers would either send this product to landfill or to pig farmers predominantly. And in this case, just because we were at the right place at the right time, we were able to salvage 99.9% of that food and actually actively provide it into communities required. So it's definitely leaning into that supply chain knowledge overarching. But just to reiterate your point, I really believe we're scratching the surface on the amount of food that can actually be saved in the South African supply chain. And just being there and be able to put our hand up and say, yes, we are the conduit for that food, but you have the skill set, and more so you present the larger scale of availability of food. Let us partner together in order to try and utilize the space.
Couldn't agree with you more. I think that's very valuable what you've mentioned there, Jacques. And I'm just one or two things that have happened that I think is worthwhile mentioning is from an SA Harvest point of view, one, we've built really deep-rooted relationships in these community-based organizations, which has really helped us, even though that we don't focus on disaster relief, we are well aligned and well set up because of our relationships to do a lot of disaster relief as well. And the value of this collective, if I can just take you guys a few steps back, we had serious floods in KZN. And a couple of the larger clothing companies came to us and said, listen here, we want to get involved. We can give you stock today in Johannesburg if you can guarantee that it's delivered tomorrow in Durban. We put a call out to the network. The stock was picked up in the afternoon, and we had data back to the clothing guys the next afternoon of a link worth of stock being distributed to the most vulnerable people in that situation the next afternoon.
Amazing.
And that is the work with Road Freight and the guys. That's the power of this collective.
Ozzy, I think that's a perfect opportunity to also share with the listeners the impact that you had during the KZN riot period. I know back then I was still employed by Unitrans, and what a trying time for the country as a whole. And I remember back then, just from a personal perspective, almost just being in awe of the resilience of the transport industry and people to be able to push through such a difficult time. But I think your story is so prevalent with regards to impact and just that willingness of everybody to come together and work together.
Look, Jacques, I think that, I still have one or two sleepless nights about the KZN riots. But, I learned so much about the transport industry and, about the drivers and what they went through, because we literally had lost two warehouses near the main street of where everything happened, and we managed to overnight put 1,000 marquee tents on the Sharks field through our relationships. And we were sending stock in that situation, in that time, from Johannesburg and Cape Town, all through larger logistics companies, where their drivers still took it upon themselves with huge risk to bring that stock into the stadium with us.
Unbelievable.
And
Now
I
that
literally
opportunity, yeah.
I mean, a lot of guys don't understand warehouse space. So imagine 1,000-meter warehouse. And imagine turning that stock 5 times in 2 weeks. We're talking more than 3.5 million meals of food that we managed to bring in and move through the whole of KZN. I mean, right up north, past Mongola, all the way down Port Shepstone. All of the logistics were done by partners that risk everything but felt like they want to get involved, while a lot of them lost their own warehouses in KZN.
Incredible. I think it's just that inherent need of everybody to really strive towards not just success, but almost impact. And, you know, what is the value proposition that we give to humanity? It's sometimes seen as almost a soft and fluffy conversation, but I truly believe inherently in every human being, we want to contribute to the betterment of those beside us. And your company, I'm saying this openly, you wake up in the morning and that's your core goal. You feed people. And there's so many people that just wants to walk on that journey with you and contribute where they can. And I think it's amazing for the RFA to get involved. And Gavin, once again, thank you for such an amazing opportunity today. But it really just creates that awareness of, yes, there are opportunities like this where we can contribute. And it's not only a one-sided benefit, it can be beneficial to your business as a transporter as well.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Jacques. And I must say to you, it's an absolute privilege to be doing the work that we do and to build this collective that is really scalable, that can go eventually into Africa. But also, I must say, from being involved in the industry for quite a few years now, I've also seen on the ground in companies where this has really transformed the culture of businesses, of their staff that come out of a certain area that we might work in, you know, and them seeing the impact.
100%. I had this wasn't even part of our, and I'll share openly, part of our pre-planned discussion topics, but I think it was day 3 or 4, Ozzy took me to Hila, which is a project that they're currently running for drug abused women, and it's a facility that helps take care of their children, and then a separate facility to the side that takes care of the elderly. And SA Harvest is busy with a greenhouse project, actually generating the food sufficient for these 2 facilities to be self-sustained. And I've been in the industry for 20 years, and I've had wonderful opportunities to see world-class facilities operate at the highest level of technological capability. But it really took me a few days really to process the human nature of the impact of logistics in a case like that. I think there's the difference between it's not a parcel that could be late and a customer that's upset. There's the process of, if the food doesn't arrive, the people don't eat at that night. And it really kind of hit home for me to say that logistics will always be demand-driven, planning, push technology in order to be more optimized. All of that skill set and technology here can be provided to people that are in dire need. And if I say dire need, the difference between life and death.
Yeah, Jock, I think something also to highlight is that for SA Harvest, it was always about being the conduit. You know, we have these relationships on the ground all over South Africa with these community-based organizations. But as the conduit, it allows us to build a bigger collective with different types of impact. We do a lot of food, but there are other companies that got involved that are in infrastructure. We've had guys that got involved to help us rebuild some ECDs. So it really becomes quite fascinating. And yes, there is the huge tax incentive as well. You mean the Section 18A is a real big thing. And for a lot of the bigger logistics guys, it helps with the empty legs. I mean, the numbers make sense. But I also believe that the other side of the coin is that we can help through being the conduit to position them to their own customers and say, we can help you create more impact
Exactly.
within certain areas, which is really important.
That's great. I'm just keeping a look on the time here. I know, Ozzy, you and I can speak about this for days. I think it might be a good idea for us to open up just for Q&As if there are any. And we spoke about this before the call started. We really don't want you to pull any punches on your questions today. We'd like to share as much as we possibly can. We'd like to believe that we know what we're talking about, but if we don't, we promise to come back with the necessary answers.
Well, thanks, guys. I think you've actually shared a heck of a lot of information right there, and I can see that people are mulling that as they go through. A couple of questions for you, and perhaps that'll get the juices flowing. So, Ozzy, let's ask you quickly something around operational efficiency. You spoke about transporters using empty returns trips to support SA harvest operations. I mean, obviously, that's probably the greatest amount of support that you get. Could you clarify how transport companies practically align their scheduling with SA harvest food rescue logistics? So that's the first part. And secondly, does it significantly change their routing or add complexity? Because obviously that's the question that will arise. I'm quite happy to help you if it's on the A to B trip that I was going to do, but if I've got to go past F, who's going to cover that cost or whatever the case may be? So you happy with that Ozzy?
Absolutely, Gavin. So the short answer is that we're busy building a tech platform. It's going to be quite complicated, from a data sharing point of view on how logistics guys have sight of where we have possible food to pick up, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, what we're looking at right now, I mean, once again, thanks to RFA, it's really about, declaring where we have a certain amount of food within our value stream, and for RFA to send that message out and to see who's aligned and whose route it is, because I do feel we've got to be smart about this. And if we don't align with specific routes that the guys are traveling, it's going to take away of the effort, and it's going to start costing a little bit, and then your Section 18As, the value of that gets depleted. So a big focus for.
Sorry, carry on.
And just a big focus for SA Harvest in my team across the country is to find as much data as possible. We're mapping things that we want to share with you guys at a later stage. The seasonality of fresh produce, etc. We will have a proper data set that we can share of what we expect to pick up where in the value chain and when.
I think one of the questions that would arise, I mean, if I was involved in scheduling my fleet, is there foreseeability? Is there future? Can you see? Are you able to say, well, not just today, it's not just the crisis today, we might have something 2, 3, or 4 or a week in advance? Is that also possible? Do you think that system you're going to create would be able to do that? Because obviously that would be number one, really.
Absolutely. And that is exactly what we're busy building at the moment.
Okay.
Cool. I think if I could just add on that, Gavin, sorry, before we move on, the only way that we can really counter the variability of transport requirement is to try and align it with the variability of the food supply. So currently a large proportion, and I almost want to go to the extent of all the transport that's currently provided to SA Harvest, is requested on an ad hoc nature. Yeah. I think the real way to try and work forward, technology is always great, but you can only slot technology over a human process. What really is the way for us to look forward going is to try and have levels of partnership to say that we do not require a dedicated fleet, but this is a pool area of availability to almost say that if the transporter initiate the action from the transporter side, I'm running an empty leg back from Johannesburg to Cape Town, SA Harvest, do you have any food for us to transport during that time? So almost to collaborate in both the need and supply of that supply chain channel.
No, absolutely. I mean, I think everyone gets gets the idea. This isn't a scheduled, movement of frozen veggies.
100%.
Yeah. This when it goes wrong, just like that little diesel spill, when it goes wrong, you've got to find, the actors there and then as ad hoc as it could be, I suppose. So, Jacques, let's ask you a question. In today's modern world, ESG and sustainability reporting is an important thing. It's not just for the big corporates. I think everybody is beginning to understand how important that is, because sometimes you might be moving something for a customer, but that customer actually has to report on to somebody else.
100%.
So it is important. It is important. And you mentioned measurable sustainability impacts. So for the logistics companies that are currently building their ESG portfolios, what specific data or reporting does SA Harvest provide that transporters can directly incorporate into their sustainability and ESG reporting frameworks?
I think that's a great question. Thank you, Gavin. When we initiated this measurement of almost materiality on the ESG side, and possibly flawlessly so, we really consider the CO2 emission as kind of the real measurement into how can we counteract, because obviously the recovery of food, not putting it into landfills, there's a reverse calculation with regards to the CO2 save. Speaking under correction, it's 4.2 kilograms of CO2 emissions saved per kilogram of food saved. So there's almost that direct link with regards to tonnage of food rescued, and then the CO2 reverse calculation in order to what was saved. So that was our initial prospect. But we're working quite closely with a specialist in the field, a company by the name of GCX, that has been very influential in really just shaping our thinking around this ESG impact. And the process that we're currently on is trying to help SA Harvest understand, if you recover a 1 kilogram of food, what are all the SDGs that you're actually having an impact on? And being able to take that almost as a value proposition platform or a pledge of sorts back to the transport market and saying, you provide us with transportation, we provide you with a Section 18A, but over and above, for every kilogram of food that you help us transport, it's helping your ESG profile by contributing to SDG X, Y, and Z. So it's really almost having that puzzle fit with regards to, we understand that ESG is important to you. We are a conduit in order for you to try and help chase that materiality in your business. Help us transport the food that we're recovering, and this is the value proposition back into your portfolio.
Okay, magic. I think that's important. Having that data and being able to report on it is always the key one, isn't it? And
100%.
If that comes from SA Harvest, it makes it a lot easier in terms of that reporting.
And I don't think we should underestimate the impact just on the CO2 side itself. I know this one specific transport service provider or logistics group that we're currently working with is quite far down the line of looking at EVs that they're inserting into their fleet. And that's a whole discussion of hours worth of intellect worth considering, because it's obviously not just the EV, it's the supporting infrastructure, the return capability, the ROI that's required. But what's interesting is if you look at the amount of food that this business has helped SA Harvest very informally, and if I say informally, over a WhatsApp group, we have 149 tons of sweet potatoes. Can you help? Yes, we'll help. Over an 8-month period, there's been 135,000 kilograms of food that's been moved between SA Harvest and this transporter. If you relate that back, that's just short of 700 tons of CO2 emission that's been saved strictly on the basis of providing the service. And what's then very interesting is to go and calculate, what is the CO2 emission saved by transporting food recovery in comparison to the output capability of an EV? I think you'll be quite interested to do that comparative.
And I think that's music to any transporter's ears, any operator's ears. Absolutely. I mean, we spend many days going backwards and forwards trying to nail that in terms of operations. Absolutely. Well, that was an interesting discussion in terms of ESG, but now let's talk about tax incentives, business and tax incentives, because we all want to pay as little tax as possible. That's in the very nature of tax, and that's not being anti-tax. It's just, if I can get tax rebates if this can help me with my tax requirements. So Ozzy, you mentioned it, but would you be able to elaborate a little bit more on the Section 18A tax incentives for transporters? Specifically, how does donating logistics services practically translate into a tax deduction?
Gavin? Sorry, I'm interrupting you there.
Yeah, it's all right. If I'm rambling on, let me know. Hey, I'm practicing to be Minister. No, are there particular compliance considerations that companies need to be aware of? No, I don't want to be Minister of Transport.
You know what, Gavin? It's actually quite simple maths. I mean, logistics in this in our space is a taxable deduction. Straightforward, being able to help with logistics. So the rule of thumb is that 10% of your taxable annual income can be claimed back through Section 18A donations, which means rand for rand, whatever it costs you to bring that load, we give you a Section 18A certificate. At the end of your financial year, you put them all together and you can claim up to 10% of your taxable income.
Okay, that's quite simple then. Okay, cool. And then finally, Jacques, last question for you, and it's something that's always important. You know, people miss it out, but the company culture, the drivers and the company culture is an important thing in terms of the success of a business. And there have been some very good businesses in the history of transportation that have come unstuck on that. So is there a story about drivers feeling fulfilled? Do they feel they're making an impact? Because obviously here, this is something that would be out of their normal schedule. This is something that happens ad hoc, and where they might have thought, well, they're heading, you know, like you hire a horse in the Drakensberg, when it gets to a point and it's heading back to the stables, boy, that's where the horse goes. Whether it's up, straight uphill or downhill, it goes. So the drivers probably might have a similar sort of, well, the job's done. Whew, I've done my work. I can now get home. So can you expand a bit, or do you have any information on how being involved with SA Harvest has affected employee morale and the retention of employees in logistics companies? Have you seen any sort of scenarios that have played out? Has it made a difference in terms of the driver feeling, I'm not just, you know, I'm not just taking these that are going to go to a retail store and it's going to those who can afford it?
Gavin, it's a profound question, and I read a book last year by a gentleman by the name of Bob Buford. The book was called Halftime, and the underlying topic of this book was how everybody at a point in their life goes from chasing success to chasing significance. And Ozzy, I'm going to put you a little bit on the spot here. So actually, one of the main first reasons why I decided to get involved with SA Harvest is, so Ozzy actually comes from the restaurant and hotel industry with an illustrious career in that space. The phenomenal thing about SA Harvest is that this company has 35 employees, and except for myself and one or two new additions, this team of 32 people have worked together in multiple industries over a very long duration of time. So even before I get to speaking about the cultural impact of those rendering the service, and culture is very, very close to my heart. I mean, in my previous employers that I've had phenomenal teams that I love and care for dearly. I am yet to meet a business that is so strong culturally aligned internally as the SA Harvest team. And I think that's it's a phenomenal thing to experience. And one cannot not be inspired by that. And I think very much the transporters rendering service in this is the drivers themselves realizing the impact that they're having. I know Ozzy's got a beautiful story where he spoke to a driver that said, you know, in the past I was delivering boxes, now I'm delivering hope. And these are the types of comments that are constantly coming through. I think the beauty of it is that internal in this business in SA Harvest, everybody gets involved in all areas of the business. And it really is one of those companies where all 35 employees wake up in the morning and they know they're rendering a purpose in actually feeding people that are hungry. And it almost permeates through their action and the involvement that they have with those. So definitely, I think from a cultural perspective, those that render the service, that provide services to SA Harvest and the internal team. It's just a phenomenal privilege to be part of such a beautiful business and the purpose that they serve.
That's great. That's really important. Yes, Ozzy.
Well, I mean, Jock, I couldn't agree with you more. And just to give a little bit more context to that, yes, more than half the SA Harvest team have been together 17 years, sub 20. But having worked with the transporters quite closely myself when we built the company, I think that in the transport game, the drivers are under so much pressure. You know, like you said before, the margins are fairly small, so you cannot have downtime. Sometimes you're taking a load and you're waiting for 3 hours at the DC gate. It's a very pressurized environment. And the beauty of what working with us is that a lot of these guys are at the cold face. So when they're actually bringing stuff in, they get to meet our beneficiaries. They see the work that we're doing, and it does make a huge impact. The other side of the coin is, through digitization, what we've done for a lot of companies is that we've done impact reports that they've actually put up in their canteens to show as a brand how they've uplifted communities in the work that they've done. And that has gone a lot for the morale and the actual company culture. And I will end by saying that, have you driven a truck from Cape Town to Durban at 80 km an hour? I've done it.
Yep,
18 hours.
Yeah.
So,
and that's if that's you lucky if you can stay at that speed. If things don't happen, like
that's mostly downhill.
No, Ozzy, no. Well, gentlemen, downhill at night in the mine shaft. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time. Everybody on the chat, thank you so much for your time. It's a, as I said in the very beginning, it's not a nuts and bolts discussion, but it is a very, very important discussion in terms of freight logistics, in terms of what's being moved. And it might not be, the prime product for sale at a retailer, but it definitely has a huge impact on South Africa. We'll be seeing SA Harvest, the gentleman, Ozzy and Jacques, and I think a couple of other people down at the RFA convention in 2 weeks' time. So if you're going a lot, you can have a chat to them there over a bottle of brandy or something, or game of golf, or wherever. And if you're not there, why not? You should be there. So please watch the SA Harvest link with the RFA. Please, you've been absolutely fantastic in helping. You've heard some of the comments in terms of how they've been helped. We really do appreciate that as an association. Thank you all for your time. Jacques, Ozzy, thank you so much for sharing. And we'll be seeing you soon. Thank you so much. Stay safe. Stay warm, everybody.
Thank you, members.
Cheerio.